Welcome to Via the Grapevine, proudly brought to you by LiquorCity Claremont and offering you the chance to learn more about wine, the masters behind them, and even which wines to collect. Today, we're chatting about Cap Classique, what it means essentially, and the association tasked with promoting it to us and the world. Yesterday was an exciting addition to the yearly wine calendar, namely hashtag Cap Classique Day. If it doesn't have a hashtag in front of it, it didn't happen, you know what I mean? Celebrated every year on the 1st of September. This fantastic initiative was started in 2019 by the Cap Classique Producers Association, because something as fantastic as Cap Classique deserves its own day in the calendar, doesn't it? Joining us from the CCPA is the wonderful Caroline van Schalkwyk. Welcome, Caroline.
Hi, Guy. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
There's a lot of C's in that title. I think we'd have to be the CCCPA, Caroline Cap Classique Producers.
Yeah, we're trying to get people tongue twisted. That's our goal.
You must have been very, very excited to have your hashtag Cap Classique Day happen free from the constraints of the debilitating alcohol ban.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's a funny thing, when we started planning the day, we had to plan for all sorts of different things. So we had one plan where we weren't allowed to sell any wine and no one could deliver, and what were we going to do then? Then we had another plan with what could we do if people could buy wine and we could deliver, and then we had a last sort of plan of what do we do if no tasting rooms were open. So it's been a little bit of quite a lot of effort has gone into putting the day together, but all in all, I think it was a great success.
Indeed. I think before we continue, it might be prudent to have you define the term MCC, Methode Cap Classique, for us, and share how it relates to Methode Champenois, if you don't mind.
Sure. So a lot of times when people talk about Cap Classique, they refer to it as all sorts of different things. The Cap Classique Producers Association is really tasked with trying to promote the Cap Classique category. And what that means for consumers is simply that the process of production has started in one bottle and it has gone through the entire process in the same bottle. So the actual bottle that you purchase on the shelf when you buy your bottle of Cap Classique is the same bottle that we use throughout the whole process. So it goes through a secondary fermentation in the bottle. The very first people to use this process were the French. It's called Methode Champenoise. And in South Africa, we use and follow the same process, but we're not allowed to call it champagne, because you can only call a bubbly champagne if it's actually from Champagne in France. So in 1992, we coined the phrase Cap Classique, which is used to describe all of the wines in South Africa that are following that same process. So Methode Cap Classique, we call it, is the process where we convert the sugar and the yeast and that into alcohol and bubbly, and that gives you that lively, effervescent sparkle that we all love so much. And Cap Classique really is, for us, the best. So we're very, very proud of it.
It's got a bit more pizzazz than champagne, does it?
Absolutely. It's like champagne with an African twist. We love it.
Man. So if you've got all these producers doing relatively well by all appearances, why the need for the association? How and why did the association start?
So the association started in 1992. There were 5 primary producers that got together. They recognized the need for a collaborative marketing arm for Cap Classique as a category. So they got together, they started the CCPA. And over the years, we've really grown it nicely. We currently have 87 members, and we represent about 85% of the Cap Classique which is produced. We're looking at around 9.25 million bottles every year. It's the fastest growing category in the country. It roughly doubles every 4.5 years. And what's been really fantastic in this journey that we've had with them is seeing the members come together and collaborate and share resources, share knowledge, the quest for driving quality over quantity. And the mission of the association is really to produce Cap Classique that is in par with the best in the world, and then also have a collaborative effort to market. So you know that old saying, many is better than one. well, we're trying to do this together so we can all have a voice for Cap Classique globally and really grow our footprint. That's our big aim for this year.
Is there any particular qualifying criteria to be a part of the association?
Yes, so in order to call your wine a Cap Classique, it has to be currently on the lees for 9 months. When I say on the lees, that means the bottle needs to rest with the yeast cells that you add in to get that effervescent sparkle for at least 9 months. We've actually moved into new legislation now, which will come into effect in 2021 June. So all the wines from the 2021 vintage will need to be on the lees for 12 months in order to carry the wording Cap Classique or Methode Cap Classique on the label. In terms of the association, the member wineries are basically, if you have Cap Classique in your portfolio or in your range, you're welcome to join, and it just costs you a yearly fee, and then you basically can participate in all of the activities and the activations and everything that the CCPA hosts every year.
May I ask why the change in legislation? What's the reason for that extension?
So a lot of work and research has gone into the effect of quality on time on lees in the bottle. Peter Ferreira, the chairman of the CCPA and cellar master at Graham Wines, has really devoted a huge amount of time and energy into the research, and we've pretty much shown that the longer that the wine stays on the lees, the better the quality, the livelier the sparkle, or the finer the mousse, whichever you prefer. And that's why we're trying to move slowly towards longer time on lees, just so that we can maintain a very high level of quality in the Cap Classique. So basically, if a wine has Cap Classique on the label, it's undergone, proper winemaking, fabulous grapes that have really been sourced, and also then at least in the future 12 months on the lees.
Yeah, interesting and wonderful for standards as well. I get that reasoning. I wasn't sure if it was legislation that was being passed down or indeed legislation that you were creating for yourselves, and I understand the answer now. It's your own idea, which is fantastic. I believe you also have a new membership tier, entitled the Cap Classique Community. And apparently even someone like me could join. Could you tell us more about that?
We'd love to have you. Anytime. Yeah, so the Cap Classique Community is a different arm. It's for consumers, for lovers of Bubbly, for people who just want to get involved in the category and they love Bubbly and they're very excited. We've got a lively bunch of characters involved there. It's 1,000 Rand per year. Membership runs from beginning of June until the end of May the following year. And we've taken all 87 members and we've sort of come up with these really fantastic benefits. So you get a membership card, and if you go to any of the 87 member wineries, you get special VIP treatment there. We have an association with Riedel Glassware where you get 20% off all their glasses, and then a whole lot of other really great benefits. So yeah, for example, yesterday, Cap Classique Day, we had a very small social distancing function, and we invited all the community members to come and have a glass of Bubbly with us there. So yeah, it's really just a platform for Bubbly lovers to get together. We're going to be doing lots of events going forward and next year into the 50 years, where they'll be invited and they can come and join us and just to get to know them, which is really what you're trying to do, and through that promoting the category even further.
Sounds fantastic, and sharing knowledge as well. I think maybe it's around about that time. I mean, we've both got Bubbly sitting in front of us.
I thought you'd never ask.
I could see you were like, when are we going to start
When
sipping?
is the time?
On this, very quickly, I've read opinion about the correct way of opening this, and it's that you keep the cage on the cork when you pull the cork. Would you as Cap Classique SA prescribe any particular way, or is it fine? I mean, we can't all be Formula One drivers and shake the bottle and spray it all over the place, can we?
Well, you should be sobrietering it actually, Guy. If you were a real champagne lover, that's what you should be doing. It's probably a little bit safer. It's a little bit safer to keep the cage on, because sometimes you get distracted when you're busy opening it and you start having a conversation and you forget that the cage is off and you give it also a little bit of a shake and then suddenly it explodes into someone's eye or something. So you should try and keep the cage on as long as possible, but whatever you like.
Okay.
Woo!
Beautiful. And I've got a wine glass just for tasting purposes, really.
I've got a stemless one.
Oh, gee, let's have a look. That is
Oh,
fascinating.
it's more like a stemless flute, really, than a wine glass. But
Stemless flute. Why would you choose a stemless flute? Because surely, I mean, your hand is touching, you're warming that up and you want your bubbly to be crisp and cold, don't you?
Guy, it's got nothing to do with that. It's just got to do with the fact that I become a little bit overzealous with my hand movements when I drink. So I tend to knock them over quite easily. So now at least it's closer to the ground. The center of gravity is a little bit lower to the ground there.
I've got you. So it's actually for your own personal security then, really.
Yeah,
so
here it is. It's a lovely color. I'm trying to get the white page, and I can.
And we've both opened a bottle of the Christina MCC Brut, and 4.5 stars in 2017 platters. Your label looks different to mine. So what's the difference now?
Mine's actually a little bit older than yours. You've got a slightly newer vintage. My one, it doesn't have a vintage on it, but I think they must have probably redid their label. But this is obviously the Christina van Schalkwyk 1699 Methode Cap Classique Brut. Very nice little history at the back here of the lovely Christina. Oh.
Yes, and of course this is a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, isn't it?
It is, yeah. What's interesting about this is I said to you earlier that it needs to be 9 months on the lees currently. This one's actually been 22 months on the lees. So it's really a very high quality offering from Van Schalkwyk.
They've certainly cornered a part of the market that I believe is growing at a rapid rate. And I've seen from the competition that I hosted before Cap Classique Day on Instagram, where I offered up, courtesy of yourselves, 6 bottles of Bubbly. It went absolutely berserk. I was blown away by the number of people that entered the competition. And I'm very chuffed to say that if you didn't win in that competition, the lovely Caroline has given us an opportunity to give you a chance to win another 6 bottles of Cap Classique. Wow, you are spoiling us.
Get your entries in, folks.
Sure, absolutely sensational. So anyway, I haven't even tasted this yet. Lovely citrus lime on the nose.
Oh, it's got a really beautiful fine mousse on the palate. It's just a lovely, clear, clean. I can pick up quite a lot of the Chardonnay actually coming through on here. And what's interesting, Robertson as an area is synonymous with Cap Classique, really. A lot of the fruit for many producers comes from Robertson, and a lot of the time that's contributed to, they've got a very rich lime soil there, which, funny enough, is actually quite similar to the soils found in Champagne itself, which is very much on a lime soil base. So that's what brings out that really elegant sort of fine Chardonnay character, very fresh, lots of acidity. And that's what you want when you're looking for quality and delicious Cap Classique, in my opinion.
And Cap Classique, just to be clear, for those who are wondering, the different color bottles, it can come in a rosé or in a white, can't it?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, although the Cap Classique Producers Association does, we obviously like it when our members are producing, from the Cap Classique from the 3 main varieties, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier, as they do in France and other parts of the world. But there's lots of beautiful Cap Classiques that you can also find from Chenin Blanc, from Shiraz even, that has a much darker red color, and there's some Pinotage ones. So as we are in South Africa, we like to celebrate diversity. So there are lots of different styles around, and I think one of the big style that's coming through now is the addition of a sort of nectar or demi-sec or even a sec Cap Classique, which are quite sweet. Satisfying a certain market. We all love a little bit of sweet things in Africa, and there's a lot of the well-known producers are really making absolutely delicious examples of sweeter style Cap Classiques.
What's interesting about that, what you've just said, is that it will kind of take a little bit of the, what I would say a lot of people define a classy bubbly by. They would say, oh, no, the drier it is, the better quality it is. But with what you've just said in terms of how top producers are going to be producing sweeter bubbly, it kind of just proves that it doesn't matter as long as it's done according to the regulations, the legislation of the association, and people want and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no difference in the way that it's produced, whether it's sweet or dry. It's just often in the end part when you add the dosage in. So you pop the crown cap off, shoot the lees cap out, and then they add a dosage in. They often add a bit more of a sweeter dosage to get the sweetness. But I think in South Africa, and I remember my parents when we were young, they used to love a sweet bubbly. And I think we've come a very long way from the kind of sweet bubblies that they used to drink. Now we're getting them that they're very elegant. They've got beautiful acidity. So even though they are sweeter and they've got lots of sugar, you don't always necessarily notice it as much as you probably used to. And fabulous to pair with sweet treat desserts, cakes, lovely, elegant desserts, or they're fabulous for that. And even as a welcome drink, it's really nice to, have something a little bit sweeter when you arrive at a function or whatever. To serve it like that is fantastic.
One of the critical things as well about MCC, which I didn't actually discuss with Anne Ferreira, is that I know a lot of wineries will actually serve it as a precursor to a wine tasting because it wakes up your palate, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I do sometimes drink other varieties as well. But when I do, I really like at the end of the evening to just have one more glass of bubbly before we end off, because it really does waken your palate again. It's just a lovely way to end off a fabulous evening. So yes, you can have it before, you can have it during, you can have it after, you can have it whenever you want, anytime.
Have it all of the time.
Every day.
So next year, 2021, marks 50 years of Cap Classique. Can you give us any inside info on what you've got planned from a celebration point of view?
Ooh, Guy, you're going to have to watch the space. No, so we're very, very fortunate in that the very first bottle of Cap Classique was produced in 1971 by Simon Sich. And they've been absolutely fantastic in saying, yes, it's a milestone for Simon Sich, of course, but it's also a milestone for Cap Classique as a category. So we've jumped on board as the CCPA and all of our members, and we're planning a series of events which will kick off in December this year, all going well. And it'll be focused on both South Africa, and we've got 5 export focus markets that we're working with as well. And yes, we're going to be going big. So lots of exciting things happening next year. It's been such a pleasure for us to work on what we're going to be doing and spending time with the team at Simon Sich and the rest of our members as well, to ensure that next year we go all out and really make a splash. It's not every day that you get to celebrate 50 years of something. And I think it's interesting because a lot of the consumers think that Cap Classique is quite a new thing. If you talk about Cap Classique abroad, especially, people say, oh, we didn't know South Africa made Cap Classique, or is it new, or when did they start that? And we're like, actually 50 years ago. So obviously it started very small. It's only probably in the last 20 years or maybe 25 years or so that more producers have been, making Cap Classique. And we find that every year there's more and more and more people, producing it. So it's obviously a category it's exciting, and it's got a lot of legs to do well locally and internationally.
I've got possibly an unfair question that I want to ask you before we go into our quick fire rapid questions. And it only comes to mind because I happened to be at the gym on Monday, and I was watching Sky News, and they posted a story about the fact that the demand for champagne was dwindling. And obviously, because you're at the gym and I didn't have my headphones plugged into the thing, I couldn't hear what the story was, but just the headline was demand for champagne dwindling. Is that something that concerns you about Cap Classique? Would it dwindle? Is it a price thing that's causing it to dwindle? Sadly, I don't know what the champagne story is, but
Guy, I think lucky for us, and Champagne has done a huge amount of work. I mean, they've been they're incredible marketeers, the Champagne people. They have been marketing champagne for many years, and they have managed to cement this concept of when you have a milestone celebration, you drink bubbly. That's what you drink. I mean, and I think people just grow up with that across the world. So I think, you know, the thing is with champagne is it's always been very premium. It's always been priced very high. And up until fairly recently, there hasn't been a huge amount of competition there. Champagne has always been kind of the go-to celebration drink. I think there are other countries that are also producing Methode Champenoise style wines. And I think during the global sort of this almost recession that we're going to be going through now and COVID and all that, people don't always have a lot of money to spend on champagne. So it's a wonderful opportunity for Cap Classique, and it's definitely something that we want to capitalize on the export market specifically, is because we fulfill a really happy sweet spot when it comes to pricing. We're more expensive than Prosecco and Cava, but we fall underneath champagne and English sparkling wine. And there's a really lovely gap there for us to work on. And it's sustainable pricing for South Africa. So yeah, a big part of our drive for next year is to create the awareness and to create the pull off shelf so that our producers and our members of Cap Classique can have a sustainable business going forward. So I don't think to answer your question, it was like a now long answer. I don't think the desire for sparkling wines is decreasing. I just think people are searching for more affordable alternatives to champagne. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, perhaps buying local, which is great for us because people aren't going to be spending traditionally on champagne, but they'll spend here. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. I've got 5 quick fire questions for you. You're not allowed to think too long about the answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's go.
So, Caroline, what's your favorite grape variety to drink?
Chardonnay. Can I have 2?
You and me both. Okay, yes, you can have a red.
And Cabernet Sauvignon from Stellenbosch.
Brilliant. Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon from Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
Champagne flute or a wine glass?
Well, no, I have a stemless champagne flute, but I think for tasting a wine glass is definitely better for me.
But for sipping and being able to hold on to your glass, you're going to go with your flute.
Well, all these fancy new ones that you buy now, like the Lehman range and the Riedel ranges, they all they look kind of like a wine glass anyway, and they're really nice and big, so you can have a decent portion in your in your glass.
While we're chatting about this, I just want to highlight to any viewers that something that is well worth their while is at Graham Beck. You can go and do a tasting where they actually pour the same MCC into a variety of different glasses, and you get to experience just how revolutionary the shape, the design is to your experience of that bubbly. So highly recommend that you do that particular tasting. Don't just have some sparkling. Do the one with the glasses where you get to try the different ones.
You're right. It's a fantastic tasting experience. And you have no idea how much a glass actually affects the way that your palate is. It's very interesting. So I agree with you. Cheers to that.
Weskus or Overberg?
Oh, Guy, I'm sure you asked me this on purpose because, you know, I used to work at Strandveld Vineyards long ago. And I love the Overberg because of them. So, but then we were at the Weskus. Oh, it's really hard, but I'm going with Overberg. Definitely.
I'm not even going to ask why. We'll just accept Overberg. It's fine.
As long as I can go to Strandveld, then I'm very happy.
It's a random question to really ask someone, but I think just from a point of view of the fact that you're running Cap Classique SA, it might help quite a few people to know this. If you describe yourself in 3 words, what would you say?
Creative, savvy, and passionate.
Creative, savvy, and passionate. Yes.
Oh, maybe I sound like a wine.
And musically, Goo Goo Dolls or Bruno Mars?
Goo Goo Dolls. Goo Goo Dolls. Of course.
Excellent. Excellent. It's been lovely chatting with you, Caroline. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Guy. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I hope everybody puts their entries in to win that lovely case of wine behind you.
Indeed. Get along to LiquorCity Claremont to buy your favorite MCC wines. And if you fancy your luck, then you can answer the easy question here via the Grapevine page. You can tag a friend that you would share it with, and you can win a mixed case of MCC wines courtesy of the Cap Classique Producers Association. And of course, as always, this Via the Grapevine was brought to you by LiquorCity Claremont. Visit their wine emporium for a journey via the grapevine.